the type of counting down, or would I say counting, that you want. It's been 10 days now since journalist Daniel Ojukwu was taken by the police, moved from Lagos to the nation's capital, Abuja. Until today, he remains in custody in spite of several calls for his release. And it's sort of reminiscent of, days of military dictatorship when people are taken, arrested for days. But let's dig into this really and find out what exactly is wrong, what is the state of Daniel, and how, when the police say they would release him. We're joined on the program this morning by the board chairperson of FIJ, as a Foundation for Investigative Journalism, which Daniel Ojukwu works for, Buki Shonibare. She's live in our Abuja studio this morning. Good morning, Buki. Welcome to the Morning Brief.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
The last time we had you was on the Chibok girls' abduction, but it looks like we're having you again for what people have described as an abduction yet again for Daniel Ojukwu. It's been described as abducted from Lagos, 48 hours. Nobody heard from him. Eventually, it was found out that he was in the police custody. So much has happened. But what we're concerned with right now is the state of Daniel and what exactly the police are saying as to why he's been detained 10 days now.
So, like you rightly said, 10 days ago, on May 1st specifically, Daniel was taken by the Nigerian police. And we keep using the word abduction because no communication was made or was allowed to be made between Daniel and his parents to let them know where he is or where he's going to. Not until 3 days after, where we had somebody tip us and informed us that Daniel is actually in Panti. And so for us, we just believe that that is an unlawful way of conducting an arrest. From May 1st to May 3rd, and then Daniel was transferred over to Abuja on Sunday. I was at the first CID on Sunday to see him. I was also there on Monday to see him. And by Sunday, when I saw him, I asked him the question, have you been told what you did? Has there been any charge or any information? He informed me that when he got to the NCC, that's on Sunday, that he was then, shown a petition that had been written by Moise Banire SAN on behalf of the Senior Special Assistant to the President on the SDGs, Mrs. Orilope Adefuliri. And so between then and now, what we have been doing is trying to explore administrative bail to ensure that he is brought out and the proper procedure as laid out by the Administration of Criminal Justice Act, particularly Section 30, is followed, in that when a suspect has been taken into custody, the suspect is entitled, to be bailed as soon as possible and not kept for more than 24 to 48 hours. As of yesterday, we had a march to the headquarters of the police force to request that the proper procedure should be followed. If Daniel has been found wanting, if you are not granting administrative bail. In fact, the ACJA in Section 30 actually said that upon recognizance, the suspect can actually be released, based on some amount of money. You will see that that was done in case of, for instance, like Cubana chief priest. And so that's what we are asking for, that the proper procedure should be followed. Daniel is a journalist, he's not a criminal. All he has done is to write a story. And if you see that cyber crimes has been committed on the basis of that story, go through the normal procedure, interrogate him through the normal procedure, investigate through the normal procedure, not to hold him in prison in the last 10 days.
And so some details are emerging from what you have said now. You talked about the offense that he allegedly committed, initiated by Moise Banire SAN, as instructed by the special assistant to the former president on SDGs. Have you been able to get a lawyer that would represent Mr. Ojukwu to cite that case? Has the FIJ, I'll take that again, has FIJ gotten the services of a lawyer to look at that case and perhaps give us an insight into what they're quoting as the offense committed by Mr. Ojukwu?
Thank you. So yes, we have an internal lawyer at FIJ who is also a member of the board, and we have looked at this, legally. We actually didn't know what specific offense until I think just yesterday or 2 days ago when we got the bail conditions, and in that document it was written that Daniel has been charged with conspiracy and cyber stalking. Those are the two offenses that were written together in the bail condition. And so we looked at it to say, okay, how do you then establish the fact that there has been conspiracy on the one hand, or there has been, cyber crimes on the other hand? The section that has been used for this purpose has been Section 24 of the Cyber Crimes Act. And we know that that particular provision was amended significantly in February of 2024, such that it does not recognize the offense the way it has been interpreted long before now. And so you look at that, you expect that the law will be followed. So the law that Daniel is being held for is completely non-existent right now. And then laws cannot be applied retroactively because the law was amended in February of 2024. So we're looking at it from the legal perspective. But then as we do that, Daniel's continuous detention is dangerous to his health. He doesn't have access to his doctor. And so that's why we're exploring every other non-legal means, at least for now, until Daniel is out, so that we can then know exactly what he's being charged for, and we can see what the police wants to do legally in that regard, and even for us.
So in the bail condition that is being put forward, what are the conditions you've seen that is supposed to maybe allow him to go home, maybe continue proceedings later?
So those conditions are to the effect that he should produce directors or people of director level or some positions along that line from a civil service. A public servant has been requested for. And then we also saw that, okay, the person should be able to meet certain conditions in relation to property, financial worth of that property, and all of those things. And 2 of that was requested for. We've done as much as possible as we could do in that regard. So other than the protest that we had yesterday, we're also exploring this back channel administrative means, and we hope that based on the commitments that were made yesterday during the protest, and most importantly, based on interventions that has been made to the DIG and by the police force, we are hoping that all of those will result to Daniel's release as soon as possible.
So I wanted to find out, let's go back, which is one of the bigger concerns that we have, is the issue of what is your explanation to the effect that he would be picked up for 48 hours or so in communicating with his family? Because we saw it with Shego with the military, I guess. I think his own was even more days. What is this? What are they relying on to be able to pick somebody up, whether it's the military or the police or any of these government institutions, without an explanation? Is there something in law that allows them to do that?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely, it's not found in any provision of the law. The law that guides the arrest, detention, interrogation in criminal cases like this is the Administration of Criminal Justice Act of 2015. And if you look at that particular law, the one that relates to this is sections 30 and 31 of that particular law. None of it states that you should pick someone arbitrarily, and then render the person incommunicado. The family was thrown into disarray. The employers were thrown into disarray. We didn't know where he was. We had to file a missing person information for us to say that we've not found Daniel for 3 days. So as I speak to you, and which is one of the reasons why we are not happy about this issue, and Nigerians are not happy about this issue. Nigeria police has been doing this for so long. They will pick someone and then detain the person and you're looking for the person, you're not sure where the person is, you render the person incommunicado. So to answer your question directly, nothing in the law currently in Nigeria permits that particular action. It's been done many times, and if it is not stopped, it will continue to be done. The Administration of Criminal Justice Act, the ACJA, must always be followed at all times, which is why, you know, the civic actor for the protection of civic actors that went out yesterday, one thing that we called for is that when you are conducting investigation and you need to question someone, document it, invite the person properly. The same National Center for Cyber Crimes of the National Police Force invited me on this same matter in March. My invitation was done in writing. They invited me to come, and I went there, honored the invitation, answered their question, and I was out of there within hours. Why was the same thing not done with Daniel? Why has the same thing not been done for many people? So one of the things that we are calling for is that follow the ACJA. When you are asking someone to come in for interrogation, document it. That way, the invitation helps the people around that person, knows where the person is going to, and then you can follow up properly to make sure that the thing is done. I will end my thought by saying two things. To establish that there has been a crime in law, we will say that you must establish the actus reus, which is the action, and the mens rea, which is the intention. For those two things to be established, you can't be doing that on just one person. Of course, he that asserts must prove in cases of crimes like this. So what we're saying is that you can't put someone in prison and expect the person to be able to prove the actus reus and the mens rea, and then put the person in an uncomfortable condition. There are two parties in any crime. The other party is not being investigated the way Daniel is being investigated, which is why we keep saying that Daniel is a journalist, he's not a criminal, and he should not be treated as one.
Absolutely. And just to put this in context, you're a lawyer. Your specialty is in international human rights law. So these things you're saying, you're not saying it just by knowledge. It's something you have dealt with across the world. I just wanted to put that in context so people know where you're coming from. I understand that there should be some interface with the police today. We look forward to that. But I want to take this back to, you know, last week we were talking about International Press Freedom Day. You know, he was arrested just about 2 days before the International Press Freedom Day. That's on the one hand. And President Bola Tinubu has said time and again that he will guarantee press freedom. In fact, at some point he was like, you know, the press has essentially been holding their feet to the fire, and they should continue to do that. He would support the press because, again, you understand the backstory. His backstory, he was fighting military dictatorship using the press and the rest. So a lot of people are wondering, this doesn't quite add up. Well, they also say maybe because it wasn't in this country when the arrest happened. Maybe that's what's responsible for this, but it doesn't quite make sense. So speak to what this does to the image of this government, what it says about press freedom. The IGP is said to have met with the president yesterday. So speak to that, and let's call this what it is.
Exactly. I mean, Nigeria under the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration, we've seen a lot in the last period of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration. We've seen at least 11 journalists unlawfully detained, unlawfully arrested, unlawfully taken, whether for a few hours or for days. The first news editor, Mr. Shegun, at least is a recent one, and which is why we're using the Daniel Ojukwu's case as an entry point to this conversation, not just for the protection of press in Nigeria. Section 22 of the Constitution guarantees freedom of the press. Section 39 subsection 1 of the Constitution guarantees the right to expression. It guarantees the right to hold your own opinion. And when you look at the cumulative effect of sections 34, 35, and 41 of the Constitution, it guarantees the freedom to the right of the dignity of the person, you know, the right to freely move. And all of these rights for Daniel has been violated. So what we're seeing in terms of press freedom is that it is guaranteed in our Constitution. Our Constitution is our ground norm, is our apex law. And the best thing the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu can do is to ensure that under his administration, which is in a democratic society, we are not a police state, we are not a military state, to ensure that everything that is said regarding the fact that, you know, their feet has been put to the fire all the time, regarding the fact that they will ensure press freedom under his administration, those things must be put into into action. It is of no excuse that the president was not in the country at that time that Daniel was unlawfully taken. What we should do and what the president should push for and ensure is that across all institutions, across all systems of government within Nigeria, whether he's around or he's not around, whether he's in that office or not in that office, the rule of law must be respected. Fairness, justice, the provisions of the Constitution and the provisions of our laws must always be respected at all times. There is a trust deficit between Nigerians and the Nigeria police. The Nigeria police has the opportunity to make sure that the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration is not rubbished because of actions like this. Somebody said on Twitter yesterday, Nigeria police has always done this and they will do this over and over again. And so long as they do it, he puts President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in bad light. He puts the Nigerian police in bad light. He puts Nigeria in bad light. We don't enjoy doing protests because each time we do protests, the whole world gets to know about it. And the cumulative effect of that affects us Nigerians. But we hope that this will be the last that the Nigerian police will do and that the proper procedure as laid out by the ACTA and the Constitution will be followed at all times.
Particularly at a time when the government has been going around the world essentially inviting investors. This is not good imaging at all. But I'd like to thank you so much. We understand that you have a busy day, you have some interface with the police, and of course we'll be following to see how that comes through. Buki Shonibari, board chairperson, FIJ, as Foundation for Investigative Journalism. Thank you so much for your time. We're with you on this, so please get back to us as soon as you have more.
Thank you so much for having me.